Hey folks, welcome to another video. In this video we're going to be talking about carbohydrates and why people think that carbohydrates are a bad thing. It's something I've been questioned on a few times recently, and I've got an interview coming with somebody special about carbohydrates. But in this video I'm going to give you 5 reasons why I believe that people think that carbohydrates are bad. The first huge reason why people think carbohydrates are bad are the Atkins diets, ketogenic, paleo. They're all basically the same thing. Keep your carbohydrate intake below 30%, 20%, whatever it is. And these have all been things that have been marketed, remarketed to the point where it's mainstream knowledge, mainstream belief that keeping carbohydrates low is going to result in you losing weight or being healthier or more disease-free. And if you go to any gym, people just talk about keeping carbs low for weight loss. I spoke about that for 4 or more years. I was trying to keep carbs low, and we've just been plied with this propaganda, if you like, that keeping carbohydrates low is going to result in weight loss or a better gym bikini body, whatever. And it's just not true. I've proved, not just in my own life obviously, but in the people around me, I've proved time and time again that absolutely nothing to do with your carbohydrate intake being under 30%. You can eat a normal healthy amount of carbohydrates absolutely and still be fit, trim, lean, have a six-pack and all the rest of it. Our body's primary fuel source, its preferred fuel source, is carbohydrate. And so when you reduce carbohydrate, the whole idea is to get the body into a more fat adapted state so that your body runs more off of fat. But the problem with that is it's more stressful to the body. It's harder for the body to derive correct energy from fat and protein than it is from carbohydrates. So you work a bit harder. And that's one of the reasons why you can get weight loss from doing a low-carb diet. Weight loss can occur on Atkins diets, usually because you've removed the processed foods and the more junky foods that you were eating. So you have actually taken a step in the right direction by going on Atkins, and so you get a bit of weight loss. Quite often the weight loss initially is water weight, and that's why you're shedding pounds at the start. And the other reason is what I just mentioned, that you're stressing yourself out. Your body's having to use more energy just to derive nutrients from the food. So you can stick with it for a while. You might experience this initial weight loss, but sooner or later you're going to get cravings, or you're going to start relying upon just your willpower for this to continue, and that is going to be hard. You never want your chosen diet plan to be relying on your willpower. It's always got to be sustainable, enjoyable. That is what is going to keep you on something for life. Another reason why people think carbs are bad are the short-term effects that happen when you reduce or remove carbohydrates from your diet. So if you've got, this works for both disease prevention or reversal and the weight loss side of things too. So as far as weight loss goes, you remove carbs, a lot of what the weight that you lose is water weight initially when you first do it, and you think you're doing the right thing, and then you force yourself to try and stick with it, and you run into this diet binge purge merry-go-round cycle. And for the disease side of things, if say you've got candida or you've got gut issues, you remove carbohydrates from your diet, say you stop feeding that bad bacteria, you can get initial feelings of benefit at the start because you might itch less. But if you've removed the fuel from the bad bacteria, you've also removed the ideal fuel for your body as well. So it's short-lived and usually results in a sort of binge purge, kind of people beating themselves up for not being able to stick with it rather than finding a truly sustainable plan. Another huge reason why people think carbs are bad, and this one is a real bugbear of mine, is when sugary foods are being confused with fatty foods, or with foods that are high in both sugar and fat. So things like cakes and donuts and cookies and biscuits. People think that these are sugary foods, even Mars bars and things like that. These are high in fat. These are high in a sugar-fat partnership. They're not just high in sugar. And it's this deadly partnership that causes problems for so many people. So in my opinion, it's really unfair to refer to these as sugary foods or even high carbohydrate foods, because actually they're loaded with fat. And it's this partnership when fat and sugar come together that is so deadly for the body. It's so disease creating. Insulin resistance creating in the body. Sugar on its own would not cause the same issues that a sugar-fat partnership type of food would cause you. And so look at the blue zones all around the world, people feeding primarily on whole food carbohydrate forms like rice and grains and potatoes. They don't have the same issues, they don't have the same problems as people eating cookies and donuts in the West. My fourth big reason for people thinking that carbohydrates are bad, and specifically sugars are bad, is a bit linked to the previous point, and that is a misunderstanding of how sugar functions in the body, what its role is in the body, and how it is processed and how it moves into our cells to create energy. People do not understand the problems that fat causes in this relationship. So if you've got a high fat diet or even a mid-level fat diet, it can adversely affect your absorption and assimilation of sugar. This is the work of Dr. Neil Barnard in his book Reversing Diabetes. Diabetes is a sugar problem, according to most people who have it, most people who have any sort of understanding of diabetes. However, the root cause lies more with fat, because fat is what caused the insulin resistivity in the first place. You've got a reduction to your insulin sensitivity. You want to be looking at your fat intake, not just your sugar intake. Sugar is a fuel for the fire now, sure, but what caused the fire in the first place was fat. So just to spend 30 seconds on exactly how sugar is metabolized in the body. Sugar comes in, we eat it from potatoes or even sugary foods. They go down into our stomach, and then this goes into our bloodstream through the small intestine, the lining, and this has got to get into the cells. So the key that is used to unlock the cell door is something called insulin. Insulin unlocks the cell door to get the sugar inside, the glucose inside to feed us, to fuel us. And fat is like chewing gum, blocking the cell door so that insulin cannot do its job. So what did Dr. Barnard teach us? You take the fat out of the equation, you can reverse type 2 diabetes. You can get sugar absorbing, assimilating properly in the body again. My final reason why people think carbs are bad, quite a controversial point, but the meat and dairy industries promoting their own products via governments. So meat and dairy industries in many countries around the world have close links with the government. Economies are propped up on the success of meat and dairy industries. And sugar doesn't have the same support. Carbohydrate companies don't have the same support. You don't really see banana companies lobbying government to get people eating more bananas, but you do see this from meat and dairy industries. Historically, traditionally, this is what's happened. And so we're fighting a big battle against these companies to get the truth out there. And as far as I'm concerned, at the moment we're losing that battle, because meat and dairy are winning. They're getting people on paleo, they're getting people continuing to believe that animal products are necessary or even healthy for human bodies. The main issue with when they're combined with carbohydrates is that fat-sugar partnership that we talked about earlier. Because animal products are loaded with fat. Don't care what anyone tells you about the protein content, they are fatty foods as well. They've got just as much fat as protein, unless you get the really lean cuts. But even then, they've still got loads of fat. They've still got a dangerous level of saturated fat in most animal products, and this is the problem. It comes along, it causes that problem with insulin that we talked about before, and they do not combine well with your potatoes and your other sugary foods, which should be fine for you to eat. So there we have it. Carbohydrates are not a bad thing. They may be found in some bad foods like cakes and cookies, but it's not the carbohydrates. Look at the ingredients. Look at the macronutrients split down. Look at what you're really eating. Do some critical thinking of your own and really think, are carbohydrates really that bad if for thousands of years people have been living off of rice and potatoes? Just doesn't sound right, does it? So do your own research. Look at the blue zones. Look at the work of Dr. Neil Barnard. Look at Dr. Doug Graham. Look at Dr. Michael Greger. All of these people promote eating carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are not the enemy. Far from it. They are the body's #1 fuel source.